So essentially the idea here is being able to help companies that are seeking tangible results from green IT investments. And there's three sort of ideas here. Number one is this whole thing around sales acceleration. How to get your salespeople within green IT organizations selling more, selling faster, getting to the right people within organizations. All right. Number two is business development. We'll talk in a second about how these companies are not an island, but working with complementary technologies to access different types of budget within your customer base. And number three is this whole idea of solutions matching, and we'll get into bundling in a few minutes. How companies in the green IT space are bundling with other solutions to be able to access entirely new markets where they did not play before. This is pretty interesting. So green IT verticals are the ones that we've all been involved with. I mean, there's all kinds of different verticals. I mean, you can take a look at any one of them, and they're good markets to be in, right? They're growing fast. They've got, you know, a 45% CAGR. There's all kinds of interesting things going on, lots of innovation, lots of investment. So, I mean, you know, data centers will be up to, you know, depending on who you listen to, 40 billion in a few years. Green IT services that support that are also growing at a really high rate. Smart grid, absolutely huge. I threw ESCOs up there because they do a lot of the implementation. I mean, no matter which market you look at, which verticals you look at within the green IT space, everybody's doing pretty well. And so the question really isn't how can we better achieve success in these markets, it's what other markets are out there. And we start looking at other markets, you can see that the real large markets out here absolutely eclipse the green IT space. So here's one, which is the environmental goods and services market, which encompasses pretty much everything in a sustainability market worldwide, is about 650 billion worldwide. And it'll be about 800 billion in a couple of years. So the question isn't how can we sell more green data services to our existing market, it's how can we jump into other markets and actually leverage what we're doing with that. The other idea behind moving up beyond cost savings is really where our focus is as green IT people. I mean, I've worked in green IT for almost 16 years, and I've always been focused on similar things as I've heard in the past 2 days, which is really all around internal costs, operations, internal strategy. But when you start looking at these larger markets, like the EGS market, they're not looking internally. They're looking externally. What's most important to these companies is profitability, risk, you know, opportunities. How can they grow their business? Can you provide them something as a green IT vendor, something that will help them do that? It's hugely important. So really enhancing the value of the solution, you really need to have some sort of alignment between what you're offering and what these guys really care about. And if you can succeed in doing that, you are your access to much, much larger budgets, much, much larger deals and way more exciting deals. And green IT at a operational level has always been great, right? It's, I need to reduce my energy efficiency by 20%, boom, here's a solution, I can go and do that. But the interesting thing is once you get out of that operational mode and into, you know, you're talking to the CIO or the CFO of these organizations, things change. Green IT is seen as an operational tool, not as a strategic tool. It's seen as something that carries quite a bit of risk. So if I'm going to build a new data center, that's a heck of a lot different than if I'm going to change the data center I'm already using. And even if you can show that it's going to cost me less to use that data center, I really need to be convinced that the risk is zero for me to change all of that operations from one to the other. A lot of executives find green IT as a solution looking for a problem. I hear this a lot. So if cost savings aren't the issue, then what is the issue for green IT? So selling green IT because it's green IT or because it's cost savings sometimes just really does not resonate with a lot of these companies. And the last thing is I got my start in clean tech, which is really around carbon accounting, back when carbon accounting was a big deal. And one of the things that we did was we attached ourselves to regulation. And while it worked for a while, it is literally the kiss of death in technology right now. And it's one of the things that I see green IT companies doing a lot. Once you start selling into the CFO or the CIO, this becomes a huge risk. So even, so I see this with the CRC. There's a big security firm, multi-billion-dollar security firm on the West Coast that just launched this big thing around the carbon reduction commitment in Europe. And it is a failing strategy because the last thing you want to do when you're trying to be strategic with your green IT solution is aligning it with something that holds so much risk that no company would ever buy it. Some examples of what's happening. I mean, there's thousands of examples, but some of the more interesting things that we've seen lately are these types of things. Employee sustainability initiatives. So there are about 50% of the companies, of those thousands of companies that report to the CDP, are doing things like this. Basically attaching performance of individual employees to sustainability initiatives. So much so that in aerospace manufacturing company I told you about, their CIO doesn't get paid his bonus if they do not reach their energy efficiency goals. Now, green IT has a huge impact on whether he meets those goals, but the implementation of those is completely separate. He does not own the budget. He does not have access to the budget. So he relies on providers and suppliers to put those budgets in place. That's happening in literally thousands of organizations. And so there's no link, really, between the workforce management solutions that exist in these organizations and tracking these KPIs. It's pretty wild. Green supply chain is another one. You hear about green supply chain all the time, and everybody's talking about Walmart and Procter & Gamble. But it is far, far beyond that. We just picked up the second largest PR and marketing firm in America. And the reason they came to us is because their client, who's Abengoa, is basically enforcing carbon and energy tracking and things like that through their entire supply chain. And their supply chain includes service providers as well. So their marketing firm now has to comply with this. So they call us up and they go, yeah, sure, we can throw $20,000 at this thing and get all our reporting done. But what we want to do is we want to turn this into a business. So this is going to be a cost to us today, but it'll be a business for us next quarter.